Hey guys, today we're doing unboxing the ShengShou magnetic clock. This is the first ever mass-produced magnetic clock, and the first magnetic clock that I have owned, and I'm excited to see what this puzzle's performance will be like. In the box, it looks like all we get is the clock as well as this instruction pamphlet. Just looking at the puzzle, it seems like my clock has one dial that actually isn't positioned correctly within the mechanism. I'm assuming that this was just something that got jumbled around during shipping. I'm not exactly sure if that'll affect the actual turning and my first impressions, but either way, that is something that I will have to fix soon. Just testing these pins, obviously they're magnetic, which is very cool. They feel pretty good and have a nice tactile click as opposed to the non-magnetic Lingao that I have. The dials, on the other hand, these are pretty bad right out of the box. They are super stiff and definitely don't move nearly as well as my other clock. However, I do remember that the Lingao was also pretty awful right out of the box as well, and it improved significantly after setting it up and doing tons of break-in solves. Again, not sure if the misplaced dial has anything to do with the poor performance, so I decided to go ahead and disassemble the clock to get this fixed. This brings me to one of my favorite features of this puzzle, which is the fact that it has screws that hold it together. This makes it much easier to open up and set up as opposed to the Lingao clock. And if you're like me, this also prevents you from accidentally cracking the shell of the clock during disassembly. So fixing the dial was pretty simple, but unfortunately the performance didn't really get much better after doing this. In fact, the pins and dials started to catch and not move, which is definitely something that I wanted to fix. There was no way I was going to be satisfied with this performance, so I decided to go ahead and set up the clock right away. The only lube that I will be using for this is Traxxas 50K. If you don't know, Traxxas is a heavier and more viscous lube that is similar to Weight 4 or Weight 5. I basically use this to set up all of my puzzles, including my Lingao clock. After getting the entire shell off the clock, I messed around trying to get the inner casing to open up so I could get to the inner pieces and stuff, only to finally realize that there were another set of screws that I had to take out. You can probably tell that I am not at all experienced with setting up clocks, but the disassembly was pretty easy after remembering this. Anyway, so basically I just put the lube on all the different gears, including the pins. I don't really have an exact science to the setup process for clocks, but this is kind of the same thing that I did with the Lingao, and that turned out pretty well, so I just thought I would try the same thing again. Basically just putting Traxxas wherever different parts make contact with each other. Here you can also get a look at the magnet placement within the clock, those being attached to the pins themselves as well as the inner casing of the clock. Just something that I think everyone should keep in mind if they're setting up a clock. There is a good chance that the springs and mechanism on the inside will start getting all messed up and probably popping out from time to time. I find this kind of frustrating during the reassembly, but it isn't too big of a deal, and it is important to remain patient. Alright, so I reassembled the clock completely, and that's basically it for the setup. After setup, turning right now still isn't too great, unfortunately. The pins feel very nice and tactile, but the dials still need some work. I can say that the performance is noticeably better than straight out of the box, but it still isn't very good. The dials still feel very muddy and the turns aren't defined well as opposed to my Lingao. I am hoping that this will improve significantly with a bunch of solves, so that's what I'll be doing, and I'll probably come back and update you guys with a review in a little bit. Anyway, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video for more content in the future. Thanks for watching, and until next time.